Once upon a time, there was a 15-year-old boy named John Doherty from Long Island who dreamed of being a chef here at the fabled Waldorf Astoria Hotel in Manhattan. An Art Deco palace known for fine food that's been home to presidents, celebrities, and events like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Awards Banquet. So he attended the Culinary Institute of America while working part-time at the Waldorf. And just 12 years later, that boy became the man in charge as executive chef, leading a team of 150. And he's been running the operation for the past 22 years. How did he make that dream into a reality? Thank you very much. I know how busy you are. Let's start right, with the dream. How did you make this dream come true?
I don't remember how I made it come true, but I think working here as a young guy, cook, I was 19 years old, I began to see a lot of great things. The executive chef would come out every day and he would prepare meals for Imelda Marcos, Frank Sinatra. There was Bank Suites here, manufacturers, Hanover, Irving Trust, many VIPs in the towers, and he would personally handle that. And I saw the work he did, and I questioned, why wasn't everything we do like that? This is the Waldorf, it should be. And so I saw that, I wanted it, I wanted to be part of it, I wanted to see it everywhere. And so began the dream of imagining everything being like that. So it was a pursuit of perfection, excellence, of what I saw small glimpses of throughout the day. It was my dream and my passion to see that everywhere.
Now, how about the internal resources that it takes? I mean, a lot of people have a dream and a goal, but they fall short. How about some of the discipline, the ways that you organize your life, the way you lived your life that led you to accomplish this goal?
Yeah, well, a lot of it, self-discipline is a personality trait. You can develop it and you can work on it, and certainly having a vision and a passion helps you get focused. But I think you're born with it to an extent, and plus training as a chef is a lot about organization, breaking things down into simple steps. And when you're organized, that's when you can focus on quality. Because when you're not organized, all your time and energy is about getting the task done. So setting up systems, procedures, getting everybody informed as what they have to do. When everyone's working with order, they work quietly with focus on what they're doing, and that's when you achieve great quality.
So perfectionism, being well organized, what else?
The vision starts with the vision, and when you have the vision, you need to communicate the vision to people as to what it is you want, make it crystal clear, give them the boundaries to work within. That's where the rules, the regulations, procedures come in. Here's how I want it done, okay? And then everything is correct, which means you've managed it well. Managing is good. Leadership is great.
What advice would you give to somebody who's watching right now, who has a goal, who has a dream, but they're far from it in terms of the first steps they need to take to go from A to B?
Steps, exactly. What steps do you need to take to accomplish that dream? What kind of education do I need? What kind of experience do I need? What kind of people do I need to associate myself with? How do I need to dress? How do I need to act? So all of these things add up to small little successes. And when each little success gets you a step closer to your vision and your dream, then you're moving. And everything you do needs to get you a little bit closer to that dream. If you get tied up in things that don't matter, you're wasting your time and energy.
That's focus.
Yeah.
That's focus.
Yeah.
Now, when you became executive chef, you ultimately became the boss of people who trained you.
Yeah.
Was that difficult?
That was difficult. That was difficult. And it seems like it was yesterday, and it was the most valuable lesson that I learned, because I had to approach the people who were my father's age, who taught me so much of what I knew, yet I knew that they were not doing their best work. They were not doing what we should have been doing. They got tired, they got comfortable, and it was below what it should have been. So my job was to challenge the process, not challenge them personally, but look at something and bring them into the process. Say, hey, Frank, here's a dish. I know we've been doing it like this for many years. Respectfully, I understand why, but what do you think if we did it this way? And of course, knowing the answer would be, no, that would never work. We do it this way. I said, well, Could you just let me try one? Let me try it one time. Now, he's going to have respect for me, begrudgingly, but he's going to say, okay, we try it one time, it works. I make him part of the process, and then he can turn around and say, I like that, that's good. I'll say, thank you to you, Frank, good job. And now we moved on. And I was able to do that repeatedly because it worked. It was respectful. I was respecting their territory, them as people, their knowledge, their experience, and utilizing them as part of the process to grow.
22 years at the top, leading a team of 150 chefs and others, obviously. How are you different now in terms of how you lead people?
Wow. In the beginning, for the first several, maybe 10, 11 years, it was all about management. As we said, yes, creating the vision of where we wanted to go, how we want to do it, policies, procedures, everything being correct. And we had good food. We didn't have great food. We didn't have great performance. I didn't have passionate people. Where that comes in is when you extend management into leadership. And that I learned a lot of it along the way, but one particular thing sticks out in my mind is when we got a dog, and we brought the dog for training.
At home?
At home.
You weren't
yes.
bringing a dog into
no
the
dogs
kitchen.
here at work, that's right. But we trained the dog, and in the process of training the dog, I learned that the dog responded to everything that I wanted to do with positive reinforcement. Praise and treats. Praise and treats. You don't scold the dog, you don't frighten the dog, you just praise the dog when you distract the dog when it doesn't do what you want it to do, and you praise the dog when it does what you want it to do. I said, my God, if I could raise my kids all over again, I will tomorrow. But it wasn't too late. And same thing for here. So instead of spending my day going around trying to find things that were wrong before the customer did, because that's what we as managers do, I then started to go around and trying to find things that were done right and praise and make a big deal out of it, because when you really focus on it, and it is great, it's exciting because I see that gets me a little bit closer to my dream. I can see it and I can feel it in that dish or in that act or in that performance. And so now what I do is I go around trying to find things that are done right, and when I do, I praise it, and honestly, people, they just want to keep doing it. And it's wonderful, it's great, it's so proudful. And when people don't do what I want them to do, or when they're not performing well, instead of pointing it out to them, I ask them, tell me, is that your best work? If you're doing that for your bride, for your mother, your friends, would it come out like that? Is that how you would do it? And if they're honest with themselves, and I make them be honest with me, the answer is no. I said, okay, fine. Let's forget about why it is that way. You're going to fix it now. What are you going to do?
The dog theory of management. Well put. Now, John, how do you get 150 chefs and cooks to cook like you?
Crystal clear, again, all those processes in place. It's almost just a repeat of everything. Expressing, communicating exactly what I am looking for, okay? But it has to be a two-way conversation. If I tell you how I want you to do something, and you shake your head yes, foolishly, I assume that you're going to do what I'm asking you to do. Probably won't work. Best thing I can do is say, Bill, you see what I'm looking for here? Here's what I'm looking for. Tell me, how will you get that done? Now, I'm listening to you tell me all the steps of the way, how you're going to do it, how it's going to be accomplished. I can challenge you and say, Bill, hold on. I think if you do that, it might not come out exactly like that, but yeah, so we have this conversation. So I ask my chefs to delegate by asking questions. Find out what's in somebody else's head, what is their plan, how are they going to make it work and be successful, and then you can walk away and come back and check later, and it's probably going to be dead on.
How about what it takes to have longevity in any job? Here we're dealing with you, 22 years at the top of a gigantic organization. What does it take to keep coming to work every day and doing it as well as you need to do it?
Well, if this was one small restaurant, it would be a problem for me because I would get bored with it. But because we have 3 restaurants, room service, multiple banquets, there's the financial capacity of my job, plus the whole leadership of developing people. No 2 days are alike. I wake up every morning, I can't wait to get back to work.
Let's pause for a second on the track of what it's taken to be so successful. Tell us a couple of stories about some of the notable people who've stayed here and their food demands and requests and so forth. There must be hundreds of stories like that.
Well, you'd be surprised. There really are not. I'm asked that question all the time, so it's a good question to ask. When people stay here, they honestly they either order off the menu,
Right.
or they'll request something of their personal liking. But we're used to that in room service, in our restaurants anyway, even in banquets. So I couldn't tell you who's ordering things that are off the menu,
Right.
but it happens all the time, and we're happy to accommodate. That's part of what makes the Waldorf special. I would say that the special events, the people of notoriety that create memories for me, usually revolve around the United Nations, the UN, where the president comes in. During the UN, we'll house here 25 heads of state from around the world. So just the security presence, the logistics, the movement it just makes you realize that you're part of something that's very, very important. And although I might be just putting out a meal, I'm lucky enough to be part of something that is perhaps making world history. And for our presidents, I've had the honor of being part of some very historical events. And sometimes they're smooth as silk, and sometimes they're a little bumpy, and we have good stories to tell about that. One in particular, when Gorbachev came to this country, just before President Reagan left office, President Bush was elected. That dinner was on Governor's Island. They asked me, the State Department asked me to do the food, so we did. We packed it up in a van, and of course we had to cross the river. There were several security checkpoints. When we got onto this small island, on one side of the house was all the Russian Secret Service, on the other side was the American Secret Service. There were dogs, there were Navy boats going around the island, there were helicopters above. You knew that you were part of something very intense. I went in the house, and the only people in the house were in the dining room, were these 12 world leaders, the Russians and the Americans. And here I am in the kitchen with my assistant preparing this lunch, watching it all on TV there in the kitchen, this world event. And that did go smooth as silk, but it was just probably one of the most exciting things I was ever part of.
Now, you've cooked for Carter, the two Bushes, Clinton, and Reagan. Give us very quick impressions of them, because you met them all.
Reagan. Ultimate gentleman, very gracious, always made it a point, no matter how intense the dinner was or important it was, to find the chef and thank the chef for the very nice meal and show his appreciation, and that was very good. And he did have some dietary restrictions, which Mrs. Reagan always checked the menu and approved before the dinner, which was fine. That was great. She looked after him dearly.
How about Clinton?
Well, we'll get to Bill. George Bush Sr. loved everything except broccoli. For a guy who was such a foodie and loved so much about food, he wanted to know not so much what he was going to eat before lunch or dinner, but how I created it, how we made it.
Genuine curiosity.
Genuine curiosity. Come on, bring the chef. I want to know about what's going on. What are we feeding everybody? How's it going? How do you make that? Oh, that sounds great. It's amazing. After the dinner, he'd probably come out and introduce me or meet the staff and take a few photographs. Bill Clinton, not much of a foodie, as we know.
Burgers and fries. Right?
Pretty much when he died, simply in the room, pasta, burger, sandwich type of deal. When he did entertain, of course, we made nice menus, and some of those are in the book, the Waldorf Astoria cookbook, and
right.
They're historical, and that's great.
George Bush.
George W. Bush, he does like more Southwestern American cuisine. So when he comes in, his service team will go over the menus throughout the hotel, show them what we've got. They know what he likes, so they make a list of things. They make up a menu from a collection from around the hotel, and they figure out with the president what he wants to eat. And of course, when he entertains and does state dinners, again, it's the same thing. They leave it up to me to make the menu. It's always going to be something nice and special.
Now, you appear to be in really good physical shape. It's a very long day. How many hours a day do you work?
Everybody in this business works long days. I don't think you can work less than 11, 12, anywhere from 11 to 14 hours in a day.
All
and
that food around.
Stressful.
All that food around, working 11, 12 hours a day. How do you stay in shape?
Well, my problem is I don't eat. I don't eat because of the stress. So it's so busy, it's so intense, I forget to eat. Sometimes by 5, 6 o'clock, I'm feeling tired and I realize, oh, I haven't eaten today. So that's a bad habit. I need to eat throughout the day. But at least I don't overeat. And I do get exercise in the morning, and that really gives me the energy that I need to get through the day. And just keeping physically fit is important. I think it's important to be able to perform well, to think well, to lead well.
What would you say to somebody who's having a midlife career change? They love food. They know a lot about food. They can cook. They want to get into the food business and somehow make a little money. Any advice?
Well, it takes a long time, and a career change getting into it takes a long time to build the foundation. And you can only be as successful, almost like in any business, you can only be as successful as the depth of the foundation that you build. And so there's no fast way to the top. There's no fast way to learn it all. So I say to people, you know, take a course, enjoy cooking, make it a great hobby. In midlife, it's going to take too long to become a great chef, just because it just does take time.
But I'm thinking of somebody like, you know, Paula Deen, for example, who at midlife, she sort of could cook, starts making things for the neighborhood, and parlays this into an industry.
Right. Well, she's a great cook.
Yeah.
That's not a great chef. When, you know, a chef, part about being a chef is the whole management of a business and leading people, where food becomes such a small part of what I do.
Is that frustrating that food becomes a small part of what you do because of the finances, the leadership, the planning and everything?
Yeah, it is part of what frustrates me, but I make sure that I always stay part of it. You know, we do chef's tables in the kitchen, and I create all the menus for that. And when all those items that are successful will end up on the banquets or the restaurants. So, and I'm in with the food all day long. We're talking about food, we're smelling it, we're tasting it. I'm connected to what I'm passionate about. So I don't need to be cooking all day.
That's crucial. The passion is driving you. What I wanted to ask before was, how do you deal with stress? There must be an enormous amount of theoretical stress in your job.
Yes.
How do you deal with that?
I think a lot of it has to do with my personality. I'm not a worrier. I don't worry about things that I can't control. And also being organized, having a plan, that's how I deal with issues. Something comes my way, first question, what am I going to do about it? So I either come up with a plan to deal with it, or I accept it for what it is. And therefore I don't stress too much.
Excellent.
But
I'm sorry. Yeah. Should we take a little trip into the kitchen?
Sure.
Okay, Chef John Doherty here at the Waldorf is going to show us how to make warm smoked salmon with lentils.
Very good. I love this dish, Bill, because it's simple. You can do it at home. We do it here in the hotel.
And it's healthy.
It's very healthy.
Yep.
It's very healthy. So we have a smoke pan, which you can even convert a roasting pan to. We put some wood chips in it, which you buy at the store, gourmet store, even Home Depot has them. You get them hot on the grill, under the fire. In a few minutes, they're going to be smoking. Here in this small pan, we're going to cook some lentils.
John starts with bacon, olive oil, chopped onions, carrots, celery, a bay leaf, and thyme, adding lentils and chicken stock. John prefers fresh wild salmon, which he lightly coats with olive oil, and then starts the smoking process. After 3 minutes of smoking the salmon to add flavor, it bakes in the oven at 350 for 5 minutes.
So we have the lentils.
Let's start with the lentils. Always a big hit in my family.
All right. Okay, actually we can put the lentils right on the plate.
Got it. In preparing to finish the dish, John dresses the tomato basil salad with sherry vinegar and a touch of olive oil. What's the reason you like to serve this dish?
Well, it's very nutritious, it's very flavorful, it's attractive, it's easy to make, and so we do this for banquets and for the restaurants.
John, thank you very much. Good recipe, and what we have to say now is serving one smoked salmon with lentils to us.